My name is John McKinney, and this is the inaugural edition of In Their Own Words. Today, we're going to hear the horrifying account of Rachel and her 8-month-old son, Charlie, who were struck by a 16-year-old driving at a high rate of speed in a residential area. We're going to hear about what she went through as she saw that car approaching her, and she knew she had no avenue of escape. What went through her mind, how she reacted, her act of heroism in trying to save her child's life. And then we're going to hear about the criminal justice system and how she felt victimized by a system that was feckless in the way that it responded to the 16-year-old, sentencing him to just 5 months in a juvenile camp. So let's start by telling the audience how we got acquainted.
But so somehow I came across your Twitter and that you're a DA. I thought, well, I need to reach out to this guy and see what he can do to help me or offer advice, because we just didn't know what to do. You know, you get in an accident or something happens and you've got a detective assigned to your case, but that's pretty much all you have. You know, I was looking for a way to make sure, after learning that probably nothing would happen to this guy, that I could do everything in my power to try to influence his sentencing or punishment. So my son and I, you know, it was part of our morning routine. I'd either strap him to my body and take a walk on the beach, and this particular day I put him in the stroller. I can't recall why at the moment. I think maybe just for speediness. I think I was trying to rush home to put him down for a nap. And so it was just a normal day. We were on a walk and, you know, just trying to get in a little fresh air. And then I saw the car coming at us.
Tell us about the area where this took place.
So the neighborhood that we were walking in is adjacent to the beach. And there is one road that goes, there's houses that are right on the beach, and then there's a street, and then some other houses. And so this one particular street, it's Speedway. It's not an alley. The media refers to it as an alley, but it's just a one-way street that its real intention is just for the people who live in that neighborhood to drive to their driveways. It's not a thoroughfare, but people treat it that way. And so that being said, it's a one-way street, and you occasionally do get cars going the wrong way. You know, you get people from out of town, beachgoers, people that are just not familiar with the neighborhood and who don't live there. You know, it's easy to get to, but, you know, you make a left-hand turn, you're going the wrong way. So anyway, this particular morning while I was walking, I saw a car coming the wrong way at us, and so I stepped to the side, just thinking it would pass like normal cars do. And this street has no sidewalks. I would just like to say that. It's a very pedestrian-heavy street. There's tons of families in the neighborhood, morning walkers, joggers, people with their dogs, people pushing kids in strollers. I mean, it's just what goes on all day in the neighborhood. So to have some fear of a car coming the wrong way it wasn't something I was anticipating, needing to have. People drive too fast, but I thought for sure this guy's going to see me, but I got over as he got closer to us against the wall. And it happened really, really quickly, but also at the same time, like, I can remember everything very vividly and in slow motion, that he was going to hit us. And the hardest part about knowing you're going to get hit is that I couldn't do anything to protect my child. The single hardest part was realizing in the moment, this is inevitable. You're going to get hit, and your child's going to get hit. And I just thought we were dead. And I was more concerned for my baby than I was for myself. I mean, when you become a parent, I think inherently how you operate is just all based on the protection of your child. I'm so grateful that the people that live in that area had security cameras to capture this on film, because my last thought was, did I do everything I could have done to protect my baby? And I did. I stepped away from the wall. I put myself in front of the car to try to throw the stroller up as high as I could so that it wouldn't get hit, because had I just left him on the ground, he'd be dead. Like, there's no question. The nose of the car would have gone right into his face, and it would have just crushed him. So, watching the video millions of times like I have, and putting it on my computer and watching it in slow motion, what happened was I lifted the stroller, the nose of the car hit the left wheel of the stroller, which propelled it in the air, and it flipped several times, and the car's left front tire actually hit my son's head. It grazed the back of his head. He was dangling in the air like this. You can still it on the video, and I've got a picture of a tire mark on the back of his head. But we're okay.
How far away was the car when you first saw it?
It was a ways away. It was probably 3 blocks away. He wasn't going that fast at first, initially. I believe that when he saw me, he just saw an opportunity to hit me, because he accelerated even faster. He has to go around a truck slightly. He has to veer a little bit. But there's enough room for 2 cars on this road. It's a wide road for a one-way street. And he had plenty of room between me and the truck to get around us. And as he got closer, last minute, he turns the wheels towards us, somehow manages to not hit the wall. I mean, he was coming towards us. We were the target. He hit us. And then, he turned the wheels to miss the wall, and then just kept going.
Now, I've watched the video, and I saw that there was plenty of room for him to go by you, but there was nowhere for you to go.
There was nowhere for us to go.
Do you remember what was going through your mind at that time?
As I was, the getting hit part happened so slowly, so quickly, but so slowly. I remember bits and pieces, but as it was happening, I was experiencing it in what felt like a longer period of time than actually was just a split second, probably. I jumped myself, so the nose of the car just hit me below my left knee. I think had I not jumped, I'd have a broken knee cap. And I flew up on the windshield. I broke the windshield with my head. The detective found pieces of hair and skin in the windshield. And then as I was rolling off the windshield, I thought in the moment that I was rolling off the front of the car, off the hood, because I saw a tire as I was coming down, and I thought that was it, that my life was over. I thought the tire was coming to roll over my head. In reality, I rolled off the side of the car and saw the tire as I was falling to the ground. So I obviously did not get run over in my head, but that's what I remember of being hit. And then as soon as I was on the ground and I realized that I wasn't dead, all I could think of was, is my baby okay?
After you hit the ground, what did you do next?
While I was on the ground, I looked and I saw that the stroller was there lying on its side on the ground, and he was screaming, which was music to my ears. That's what you want. You want noise coming from your child. It's like, I didn't know if he was hurt or if something was broken, but he was alive. And so I just got up as quickly as I could to rush to him.
I can't imagine the fear that you felt. So you got to the stroller, and then what did you do next?
So I got to the stroller, and he just had some markings on his forehead and his knees from where he had hit the ground. And I just checking him over. Several strangers rushed to the scene. A guy specifically was like, don't touch him, and so I left him in the stroller. But right after we were hit and I got to him, I'm checking on him, I hear this crash, and I thought, I looked and was like, what the heck is going on? And the car, the video shows as it was speeding off, a nice guy drove his truck right into him.
So you could see the driver?
I saw his face. I saw the whites of his eyes as he was coming at me, and it was just a dead stare. I told the police officer who came to the hospital to get my statement that I thought for sure this guy had to be on drugs. He had to have been. Like, why would somebody just drive into a mother and her child and stare at them as they're doing it? I just thought, the lights are on, but nobody's home. Like, who does that? Who does that? I just thought, what an idiot, when I saw these two tatted juvenile thugs getting out of the car, I thought, they're just on drugs. Like, they've got to be. And it turns out they weren't. The driver of the car turned 16 the day before. He did not have a driver's license. It was a rental car that a 52 or 53-year-old man had rented. The man knows this juvenile, and the car was due back the day that we were hit, and he reported it missing 3 days after the incident.
It was reported in the media that the car was stolen, but you're saying that someone may have loaned the car to him?
Correct.
Okay, so then what happened?
So the firemen arrived. We just popped down a street near where we were hit and waited for the firemen and the police officers to arrive, and they came and they checked our vitals, and just loaded us up into an ambulance and took us to the hospital. As I was riding in the ambulance, I had to wear one of those neck braces, which made it impossible for me to hold my child, who just desperately needed to be loved on. So that was, a traumatic ride for both of us.
In your victim impact statement, you talked about Charlie being strapped down. Can you talk about that?
He was just hysterical. And so we had to tape him down with medical tape to a board, tape his head to a board so that they could put him in a CT scan machine where he was just left by himself.
My understanding is that the driver wasn't taken into custody.
He was not. He complained of leg pain and was taken to the hospital, where he was just left there to be picked up by his mother. He received a traffic citation for trying to kill me and my child. We were notified sometime in early March from the detective on our case that this kid had been picked up. And our question was, okay, well, what do we do? Because I had met with the juvenile court in Inglewood to discuss what charges were going to be brought against him.
And that's important to note. In LA County, cases normally go to the court nearest to where the crime happened.
Correct. So we met with DA Moran in Inglewood, and she was wonderful and helped us with our case. We had already done the legwork in determining what the charges would be, and I was going to be able to give a victim impact statement at the time of sentencing. When the detective called us, we said, what do we do? And he said, just wait, somebody will be in contact with you. And that never happened. The case was transferred up to the Antelope Valley, and I was not able to give a victim impact statement at the time of sentencing, so I was unable to influence the judge if there was any influence to give it all. And yeah, that's how we found out.
Now let's talk about the charges. When most people look at this video, they're going to see an attempted murder. Did the DA charge attempted murder?
Nope, it wasn't an option. We were told that he was going to be charged with one count of a felony hit and run. Apparently, either I or my child doesn't count as a person.
There were a lot of potential charges here. Was it ever explained to you why the document was charged the way it was?
All I was told from day one by everybody who was helping us in this case is that we just shouldn't expect anything, because Gascon's entire approach to juveniles is the lightest touch possible, which means There's none of these enhancement charges. Basically, everything that he deems petty, auto theft, driving without a license, speeding, going the wrong way, like all those things are just out the window. So basically, it's the most minimal charge that they could possibly give. It's just laughable. Like with anything, everything should be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. These sweeping mandates are telling every juvenile out there that your actions have no consequences. You can try to murder somebody and you're not going to get in trouble for it. Maybe you'll get a slap on the wrist, or maybe you'll get 5 to 7 months in a camp, where you're not required to do anything anyway. I mean, it's just, what is the intent behind this? Why? It blows my mind. I don't understand the logic. I agree that, somebody that gets picked up for possession of marijuana or some trace amount of cocaine or something probably shouldn't spend any time behind bars. But if you try to murder somebody, or even if it wasn't an attempted murder, you hit somebody with your car and you drive off, and then when you get stopped, you try to get out of the car and run. I mean, like, how does this go without punishment? You think as a law-abiding citizen that when something bad happens to you in the United States of America, that the law is going to be on your side. I mean, we've got video evidence of this kid trying to hitting us successfully, and then speeding off, and there's just nothing being done about it.
Do you have any understanding as to why he didn't charge assault with a deadly weapon?
From what I understand, it's because assault with a deadly weapon would add a strike to his record.
Gascon's policies in many ways make young people attractive to older adult criminals, especially gang members, who then use young people to commit more serious crimes. They often use young people to carry guns and robberies.
When I met with DA Marin, I asked her, because I was furious. I couldn't believe that we weren't allowed to file charges that would put a strike on his record, or assault with a deadly weapon, whatever. I wanted the toughest possible charge brought against him, and she just said, I can't. My hands are tied. And I said, well, what happens if you don't? What happens if you don't follow the rules? And in short, she'd lose her job.
Now let's talk about Gascon's reported statement. He doubles down on the resolution of this case, and he says specifically that the baby was uninjured and you suffered a mild laceration. What is your response to that?
I think the man lacks empathy. I mean, it's apparent that he takes no interest in the victims in any of these cases, and for some reason, I almost feel like I've done something wrong based on this statement. I'm fine. I shouldn't be upset with the charges brought against this kid. I mean, the kid was just out living his life trying to kill somebody. I mean, what the heck, let him live.
So is it true you didn't know he was sentenced?
No, nobody contacted us to tell us that, there was no sentencing date given to us. I was supposed to be able to give my victim impact statement at this sentencing. I was not given that opportunity.
The judge decided to send this 16-year-old off to camp, 5 months of camp. How does that make you feel?
Well, to be honest, I didn't know that there was a tougher location that he could be sent to. That wasn't explained to me, because I certainly would have fought for that. From what I have been told, the judge never even saw the video. The judge never saw the photos of the damage that was done to us. Nobody ever asked, how I was doing mentally. All the things that come with a really horrific experience like what we went through, they were just, it wasn't taken into account. The whole thing was sloppy, and it's maddening. I worked with my husband and the attorney that you referred us to pretty hard to get the sentencing that we felt or that we were told was the toughest charges that could be brought against this kid. And then, when he got picked up in March, they transferred the case to the Antelope Valley from the Inglewood office. I think there was just a lot of sloppiness and probably that transfer. Nobody reached out to me from either office. And so before I knew it, the kid had been sentenced, and I wasn't able to try to influence that. I was given the opportunity to provide my victim impact statement after the fact, which, is going to yield absolutely nothing in terms of punishment for this guy. And that's just, it's really like depressing almost to think that something so horrific can happen to you and you are not even given the voice to advocate for yourself, and that, because of these policies that Gascon's put into place, this kid's just gonna probably spend only 5 months in a camp where he's not required to do anything. And his statement was completely dismissive. It's as if he doesn't care at all for victims. He's not advocating for victims. He's advocating for criminals, essentially, and rewarding them for their work and doing bad work.
Now let's talk about the injuries to you and baby Charlie.
For a long time after the accident, shards of glass continued to work their way out of my arm.
So you told us about your physical injuries, and thank goodness they weren't as bad as they could have been. But can you talk a little bit about what mental or psychological injuries you suffered?
I would like to say one thing before the psychological, which is I have 3 discs that are out of place in my back as a result of this accident. I believe I put that in my victim impact statement, so I don't know where Gascon thinks that I only walked away with a minor laceration to my elbow. But I live in constant pain. I have trouble sleeping. My back hurts. I have to constantly move positions while I'm sleeping because my lower back is just in pain. And there's nothing to really do about it. The protrusions are minor enough that they could inject a needle into my spine to try to, medicate and just take the pain away. But there's no solution to the damage that's been done. So I'll live with that forever. And I imagine it'll only get worse as I get older. So that being said, I have a lot of physical injuries that were just dismissed. But the mental toll has been the toughest. It's, not being able to take your child on a walk in a stroller. I mean, I basically am forced to carry my child everywhere I go, which also doesn't help with the back pain. We drive more places than we would if I felt comfortable pushing him in a stroller somewhere. I don't go to parks very often because we'd have to walk there. It has gotten a little better since the juvenile was picked up. I feel a little bit more comfortable walking around, but I still, as I'm on a sidewalk pushing Charlie down the road, cars that go flying by, I just think at, the last moment they're going to turn their wheels and hit us. Yeah. And I just have to, mentally I know that that's probably not going to happen, but the fear is very real. I don't leave him with anybody really. I've left him a few times for a few hours at a time with a babysitter, but very uncomfortable doing that because I just don't have the trust and somebody to protect my child in a way that I know I can. I can protect my child better than anybody. At least that's how I feel. And so leaving is very difficult. My husband and I have not taken a vacation without our child. And that's, that wears on you. I'm with him all day, every day. Love him, but it's a lot of work. And I could certainly use a break. But I'm not comfortable with it. And I don't know what school is going to look like when I have to drop him off at school. I mentioned the mass shooting earlier, and that's a real fear. Like when something very traumatic happens to you, it makes all these other events out in the world a little bit more magnified. You know, I've already had, like, I'm kind of just a worrywart by nature, but I've already had fear of, you know, gosh, what happens when I have to send my child to school? And now it's like, I mean, well, is it safe to send your child to school?
And what about Charlie?
After the accident or the incident, he had several episodes of day and night terrors where we would just be, you know, in the middle of an activity or just sitting around, and he would become hysterical, like just inconsolable, hysterical, and terrified.
And that wasn't happening before.
Never. It had never happened. And it happened for probably about 2 months after the accident. And, you know, I talked to the pediatrician about it, and she just said, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do. You can't send an 8-month-old to therapy. You know, they don't know what's going on. They can't communicate. So basically, you're just stuck having to deal with it in the moment, and there's nothing, you just have to let it pass. And that was really difficult to experience.
Did you vote for George Gascon?
I believe I did. You know, I previously lived in San Francisco, and I loved San Francisco, but it was a train wreck when I left, and I had no idea that it was, you know, in part due to his policies.
How does it feel knowing that you voted for him, you helped put him in office, and now his policies are coming back to impact you in such a negative way?
I had no idea that one person could have such an impact on policy and on safety, on crime, on all these things that LA is experiencing right now, that feels so unprecedented. Or I guess we haven't experienced anything like this since the 90s. And so, you know, it's a very nonpartisan issue, the safety, I would say, of a city. When it comes to politics, you know, people typically vote on their party line. And when it comes to this particular role, you have to vote for the person who is going to do the job. You know, politics don't matter. It's a non-political issue, I think, crime and safety.
Now, you told us you're still suffering. What about baby Charlie? How's he doing? Everybody wants to know.
Charlie's great. He's a very energetic, lively, fun kid.
One day Charlie is going to see that video, and he's going to see his mother engaged in this selfless act. He's going to see your courage, and he's going to see that love that you had for him on that day.
Thank you.
We talked about a lot today. We talked a lot about politics and policy, but ultimately this is really a story about you, about your selflessness, your courage, and a mother's love for her son.
I can't thank you enough for the guidance you've given me. I know you didn't have to, you know, take time out of your day a few times to give me advice. You know, this system is not easily navigated by oneself. I didn't know where to start, and you pointed me in the right direction, and I'm even though I'm very disappointed with the outcome of you know, how the justice system has worked, in my case seemingly against us, I've been very happy with the people that you connected me with, and I feel like on my end I've done everything in my power to get the sentencing and the charges that are deserved, and I'm not sure we would have had the charges that we have had you not helped me out in the very beginning.
Rachel, thank you so much for being part of this inaugural series of conversations with victims in their own words. Thank you for being here.